What's up, everybody, and welcome to today's video. Now, today we have something that has been already covered, of course, but I want to take for a spin this graphic card and see what we can expect. It says that this card is ideal for 1080p gaming, and definitely going to compare it with some other graphic cards, but unfortunately not in this range, because I don't have many cards in this range. Basically, I don't have many cards in any range, but regardless of that, we're definitely going to do some comparison and I'm going to give you some ideas about what you can expect if you haven't already seen some videos online. So today we're going to talk about Sapphire Radeon RX 7600 XT Pulse, and this one is quite small card, I do have to say. 2.2 slot graphic card with two 8-pin PCI Express cables. You have two dual bearing fans which have different blades than past generation, which comes to a point where these fans are 10% quieter than the past generation, which is outstanding. You have two HDMI 2 DisplayPort connections right here at the back, where both of them support 7680 x 4320 resolution. So DisplayPort is 2.1, and that's that. When we're talking about connections, you already know everything. Now, we're talking about AMD RDNA 3 architecture. GPU boost clock goes up to 2810 megahertz, while the game clock goes up to 2539 megahertz. Memory is 16 gigabyte 128-bit DDR6 and 18 gigabyte per second effective. So we have 2048 stream processors, 32 ray accelerators, 64 AI accelerators. What's interesting about this card is that it has fuse protection for keeping the components safe. You have dual X cooling technology inside, so basically two dual ball bearing fans, and with the blade design as already stated. The one thing that I really do appreciate is not a plastic backplate. This one is full metal backplate, and we have inside, when we're talking about the cooling, quite solid passive heatsink with optimized composite heat pipe. Now, the dimensions: 250 times 116.5 times 44.56 millimeters, which means that, as you already seen in my past video regarding the Deepcool CH160, it fits like a charm. You really do have loads of space, and I did use it in Jonesbow N3, but in that scenario, this card was right, it was really close and barely placed it inside. But regardless of that, it doesn't have anything to do with the size or performance or anything similar to that. Now, this card supports Tricks and Tricks Boost, so you already seen that part in my past videos. Regarding the design, regular Pulse design, when we're talking about that black backplate, black plastic here around the fans, and of course we have red lines going throughout with the Pulse somewhat logo here, and a bit different approach here on the front, and that's it when we're talking about that. The cool thing about this card is what I love is that the whole passive heatsink is nicely covered. You can only see some traces of it here, and that's really nice. Brings the aesthetic of a GPU if you're going for something on a budget. Talking about budget, this card is around 359 euros. Comparing it to Sapphire's 7900 GRE, which is double the price, less than double, I would say 650 to 670. We will expect somewhat around same performance, half of it from the 7900 GRE. So let's go, because what I did is I used the benchmarks from the 7900 GRE and compared it to this. But in gaming, it's quite interesting. So Grand Theft Auto 5 GRE has 97 FPS. This is 1440p with AMD Ryzen 9 7900 X3D. 97 FPS. Then we have RTX 4070 89, RTX 4070 Super 105, and then we have this one 81. Red Dead Redemption 97 on the 7900 GRE and 47 on RX 7600 XT. So this is interesting to actually have in one game almost equal, and then in another half down. So yeah. And Battlefield 5, we have 117 FPS on 1440p. In 1080p, what we got here is Grand Theft Auto 5, 189, Red Dead Redemption 136, and Battlefield 5, 203. Now, at the end of the video, you'll see other games as well, what I did and benchmarked to see in 1080p how it performs, but it is what they stated. It is a really nice 1080p card. Now, some synthetic benchmarks. So 7900 GRE and what you can expect in time spy score with the same processor, same configuration, 17,652, while the configuration with the RX 7600 XT is 6,000 lower. That also almost also, but 7,000 goes for the GPU score in Time Spy, and the CPU score is totally irrelevant. But here we have some, let's say, variations of or differences with almost 1,000 score difference, but nothing drastic. Also, nothing to worry about. Time Spy Extreme score. Half down, so we have 9418 compared to 5747. GPU score basically almost the same, 9500 compared to 5400. Time Spy Extreme CPU score is totally relevant, but then we go to Port Royal score, which is again half of the price. So let's put it this way: 12,000 compared to 6,000, and that goes the same way for the GPU. Firestrike 40,000 compared to 29,000, and then we have GPU score 55,600, 32,200, and Firestrike Extreme for the GPU 28,000 compared to 15,200. And finally, Firestrike Ultra 14,200 compared to 7,600, and the Firestrike Ultra GPU score is basically almost the same. As I stated, the 7600 XT Pulse is around 360 euros, while the 7900 GRE is 660 euros. So, taking that into consideration when you try to compare the price per performance, it really is there. Okay, there are some differences when we take into consideration games, and that also kind of makes sense with the processor that I used. I think this would be ideal to pair up with 7600X, so 7600X and 7600 XT kind of would be quite solid. But 7900X 3D, first of all, it's too expensive to pair it up with this card unless you're doing something that you just need a graphic card and you're mostly using your processor, then it's a different story. But if you're pairing it up for a budget build and you have some sort of a 500 euro limit for the CPU and for the GPU, 7600X plus 7600 XT is going to be a quite nice combination. In terms of using 7900 X3D with this card, is I actually wanted to give it a room to breathe and to push it to the maximum, just to see if for any reason it would push a bit higher and stuff like that. I don't think this card will bottleneck with 7600X without a doubt, but regardless of that, I skipped that processor in this scenario. So the final thing that you need to know before buying this graphic card, they suggest minimum of 600 watts power supply, which has two 8-pin PCI Express cables to connect to this GPU for, of course, maximum power. So take that into consideration. If you have anything lower, you do have to consider peaks, and you do have to consider the processor plus additional stuff, components that will take out the power from your power supply. So yeah, take that into consideration. So looking at it right now, when we're talking about half of the price from 7900 GRE, you actually do get half of the performance. And all in all, I would say quite solid if you're going, as I stated, 500, around 500 euros when we go with the GPU and pair it up with 7600X. Quite solid thermals. In gaming, it was around 71 degrees Celsius on average, while in synthetic benchmarks, it was going around 60, 65. When we take into consideration AIDA 64 Extreme Edition system stability test and compare it with RX 7900 GRE and the RTX 4070 Phoenix GS, they were at 62 degrees, while the RX 7600 XT Pulse was at 67 degrees. So it kind of goes there. I would say somewhat an average 68 to 69 degrees, what you can expect from the GPU. And I think still it's solid. This was tested in Deepcool CH160, which I'm really fascinated about because, first of all, loads of airflow and stuff like that, so you don't have to worry about the thermals here. The thermals in the Jonesbow entry were a bit higher. I think they were reaching 75 to 77, just because there wasn't any exhaust to remove the accumulated hot air. So it kind of goes into that segment. But all in all, I would say it is quite solid. We have 16 gigs of RAM, so that's good compared to some other RTXs that were released on 8 gigs. This is quite solid and quite okay. I think it's quite okay. Yeah. So I'll place the link below. And if, for instance, you want to combine something else and you don't want to go with 7600 XT, but you still want to expand to 1440p, then I would suggest 7900 GRE, which I will also place a link in the description so you can choose what basically monitor you have, and of course the budget that you have for the upgrade from your past GPU or just building a new PC. Guys, links for both GPUs are in the description below, and well, basically now you can enjoy the gaming and check out the thermals and the FPS in 1080p in the next following games. Thanks for watching. See you next time, guys. Bye bye.